when you get your clay?
Knead it.
Play with it.
Knead it, wedge it. Every day you're going to wedge your clay. Again, that's 2 motions, the push and the pull, right? Okay. We are going to make texture tiles today. On the backboard underneath Pottery, you can find the directions step by step. The first step is wedge your clay. I've done that. The second step is going to be to roll out your clay into a slab. I have 2 nifty boards here, which you will find in the front room underneath the table, along with the rolling pins. I use the boards because I like my clay to be nice and even, so I'm going to set them on either side. When I use the rolling pins, when the rolling pin hits the wood, okay, then it's not going to push the clay down anymore, so then I'll have a nice even slab. It doesn't matter what size it is, it doesn't matter how big it is, as long as you have a slab to work with that you can divide into 10 sections. So the next step is going to be to divide your clay into 10 separate sections. You can use any tool to do it. We're going to make 10 sets of textures, okay? So here I've got my clay. I've got 10 separate textures, or spaces for texture, I should say. I want you guys to play around with these tools. I want you to figure out what they do. How do they work, okay? Use these loop tools to remove your clay. Use modeling tools to draw on your clay. All right. Some of these tools, if you hold them a certain way, they work better than others. For example, this little wooden dowel here with the point on the end, if you hold it straight up and down and draw a line in it, you're going to get these little burrs of clay. If you turn it on its side slightly, so you turn it on its side a little bit, you're going to get a nice smooth line. Okay? So, I want you to play with these tools. When we start on Monday, we're going to make our first project we're going to keep, and you're going to have to use textures, all right? The next part I want to show you is called slipping and scoring. This is what you need to do if you're going to attach 2 pieces of clay together, okay? So I have my piece of clay here that I'm going to attach to my project. You have to score the surface. Otherwise, your clay won't hold together nicely. Chances are that if you're going to attach something to your project, it's not going to be on the top surface. It's going to be on the side of a pot, and gravity will work against you on that. So you want to make sure we get a nice and tight connection. You got to score the surface. There's a picture on the board of an example of what scoring looks like. You're just going to take a tool and draw some lines in your clay. When you score, you always want to make sure you go at least 2 directions. More is good, less is bad. You're going to score both surfaces where you're going to attach it and on the surface that you're going to attach it to. This is liquid slip, okay? Slip is pretty much just clay and water, and there's a container on everyone's table. You're going to want to put slip on both pieces, the piece that you're attaching and where you're attaching it to. Make sure you get it in those cracks, okay? You're going to push this on there. I want you to give it a little push and a little twist. That'll make sure this stays nice and attached. We know that clay likes water, right? Well, what happens is this liquid clay here, the 2 pieces of clay are going to pull the water from that slip, and it's going to form that nice tight bond using those little lines that you just created by drawing in your clay, okay? Last thing I want to say is this. When you guys are making your projects, I'm going to grade you based on how neat you make them, right? So if you draw lines in your clay and you get these little burrs, they're like little pieces of clay that kind of stick up off the surface, you want to make sure you smooth those out. Because right now they're nice and harmless, but once this gets fired and it becomes hard, those are going to be really sharp, and I don't want you to cut yourselves, and I don't want to cut myself taking it out of the kiln. So any of these little spurs, you got to make sure you knock them down. You can use your fingers, you can use a sponge, you can use some of these little modeling tools that have a foam tip on them and go back over your lines and make them nice and smooth and flat. Okay, there's lots of different ways to kind of go about it. But you got to make sure you get all those lines nice and smooth. You don't want any pieces sticking up off the surface. Does anybody have any questions? All right. That's good. All right.